Alrighty, good morning, everybody. It's funny, I was telling the guy that was in the office a few minutes ago how my morning group Monday morning, so I have 8 o'clock one of these, 9 o'clock one of these, 11:30, and 11 o'clock, and we were talking about. I was just talking about how my morning group. This is the only group where nobody shows their face except me, obviously, because I have to. I just think it's funny. So anyway, so I'm Mitch with eXp Realty, and this is my Mondays with Mitch call, which I do every Monday, although I have a couple of dates coming up that I'm going to miss because I'm traveling. But I wanted to talk today about just a few of the things that have impacted my life the most. And they both had a major message. They both changed my life and how I do things. And I wanted to share these things with you. So we're going to talk about three different things today. Opportunity, expectations, and mindset. And so again, we'll talk a little bit about each one and try to get you out of here in a half hour, which is always my goal. So the first one is opportunity. I'm going to go back a long way back in the 70s. And back in the 70s, I had, does everybody else hear me okay? I have one person say they're having an issue with audio. No? Okay. The opportunity. So I'm going back to the 70s. I played in a rock band. I used to be cool before all this old stuff happened. Way down to my butt and had a lot of fun. All of it from 1975 to 1983. So yeah, it was pretty cool. A lot of fun and caused a lot of trouble, but that's okay. But anyway, so everything they say about rock and roll life is pretty true, and we partied a lot, and a lot of women, and partying, and anyways, fast forward 17 years later, and one of my other guitar player, one of my best friends, calls me up, and he goes, "I don't know what to do. This kid knocked on my door, and I have a 17-year-old son." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, get a blood test." So he gets a blood test, and sure enough, he has a son, and Joe's very, very responsible, and so he takes control of it, and that's puts me to college. When he graduated high school that year, and at the time, I was the first online dating service was a private label product for the radio industry. So a lot of my friends, six of my friends in the radio industry, were six of the 12 biggest radio station owners in the country. And so anyway, and I'm prefacing all this so you understand the whole story. So anyways, I get a call from my buddy Joe, and he said, "Hey, check out what my kid invented." And I just didn't have the time. I was getting ready to hop on a flight and didn't have the time to really take a look at it. And I'm not a tech guy. I don't understand technology. So I said, "Oh, looks interesting, but I have no idea." And I left. And so I get a call 3 months later from my son, who was going to UMass up in Amherst. And he said, "Hey, Dad, have you seen this Napster thing?" And it's like one of those moments in your life where you just realize that you missed a great opportunity. And the reason why I'm telling you this is, well, I'll tell you that in a minute. But so anyway, obviously we all know what happened to Napster. At least most people know what happened to Napster. And Sean didn't make any real money with it, although he did sell a concept a couple of years later for ridiculous amounts of money and did very, very well. But if you look back at the opportunity I could have had, and I'm not saying this is actually would have happened, but it's the opportunity was there that I didn't recognize. The opportunity was that my friends in the radio industry, were all part of lawsuits against Napster. If I had paid attention to the opportunity, I could have hooked them all up and been a part of that instead of just walking by and not even paying attention to the opportunity. So what does that mean to you? What does that mean in your life? It's really about, you don't get a lot of opportunities in your life that are life-changing opportunities. Obviously, even if I had owned 1% of that company by making the introduction, that company was worth billions of dollars if it was done correctly, in which it wasn't because of the lawsuits. And not thinking that far ahead, that company changed the whole entire music industry completely. And that was one of my bigger opportunities that I missed. I've had a couple, And all I'm saying for this message on this one is pay attention to opportunity. It doesn't happen all the time. And when it does happen, if you don't take advantage, you'll miss it. And sometimes you never miss it. Never knew you miss it. I've watched a lot of people have great opportunities in their life and just not take advantage of that. I think it's something that everybody has to think about. Anyway, so keep your eyes open, pay attention, because at some point, somebody's going to cross your desk. Don't say no to something you don't know you're saying no to. And that's what I hear a lot from people. I hear people, even when I was, I had lots of businesses over the years, some done really, really well. And I brought in, financial partners. And some people would say no, without even hearing what I was going to talk about. So pay attention to the opportunity because it's going to be there. Okay. And by the way, I can make that story a heck of a lot on here, but since I don't know everybody who's on the phone, on this call, I can't say the things that I would have said. If it's me in person, we can talk about that. The next one is expectations. And this is really, I try to do this at the end of every time I do a speaking engagement around the country or in Canada. And I try to end with at least a 5-minute blurb of this. Because once you understand expectations, it's life-changing. It's my life dramatically. But I want to tell you the story behind it. So back in so I have to mute people as their phones are on or their lines are on, they're talking. So back, I don't know, 2012-ish, I think it was, I had about 20 agents at the time with Tropical Realty. And I was flying home from Denver, and I always have to tell people I wasn't stoned because, that's just, you go to Denver, you're probably stoned, which is not true, but I'll be there in 2 weeks. I'll tell you that. But I decided to upgrade to first class. I was by myself, upgrade to first class, put on some headphones, and for once not talk to the people that were next to me. I just needed a little bit of me time. It was about a 3.5, 4-hour flight. So about a half hour into the flight, I'm listening to music, and all of a sudden I hear, your expectations are not their expectations. I heard a voice over my headphones, over my music. A few minutes later, I hear it again. Your expectations are not their expectations. And after a few times of hearing it, because I heard it a few more times, I pulled my headphones off, kind of freaked out, because that's what happens when you hear a voice in your head, right? And let me preface this before I go a little further. My dad was a drill sergeant in the Korean War. I used to call him a light switch. Awesome man. I learned so much from him. But he had a temper, and it was a light switch. And he ended up dying at 58, which is how old I am now. And he died really because of stress. He let stress get to him. When I had my 20 agents, I've always wanted to bring people to a high level. It's all I've ever tried to do for people is to take them to another level in their business life and in their personal lives. And for most people, I've been able to do that. My employees along the years of my 22-something companies I've had, I've been able to elevate people. Real estate's a completely different game because, people just don't want to do the work. I don't really understand it. But anyway, so, 2012, we were just starting to come out of the recession. But money was really tight. I was stressed because I couldn't get my agents to do more, not for me because I always make a living, but for them because I wanted them to do more for themselves. And when I took those headphones off, I got it. I said, all right, so if I expect someone to be here, be it, make $100,000 a year or more, which anybody in this business can do. If you're not doing that, we should talk. And why are they happy being here? And then I realized that just because to me, everybody should make over $100,000 a year in real estate or any type of business. If someone's happy making $20,000 a year, $30,000 a year, whatever that number is, why should I let that bother me? And at that moment, that's when I realized that I'm not going to have any expectations of anybody anymore. And it made me I redid my entire business plan, that whole ride home. If you think about this in your personal life, you have expectations of your kids, you have expectations of your spouse, your brother, your sister, your parents, everybody, your friends. I used to get upset because I'm the glue guy. I'm the guy that keeps all my friends together. Yet I didn't. I used to get upset. Well, why do I got to do that? And then I realized, well, why? That's what I do. So it's not their fault that I do that, and I shouldn't expect them to do that. So what I've learned from this lesson, and I wouldn't change my whole business model. I went from 20 agents up to 120 agents. It didn't make it any better, by the way, but it did. And but what I learned in this lesson is I don't have any expectations of my wife anymore. I don't have any expectations of my kids, my friends, my agents. You're happy. That's all I care about. My kids are happy and they're not doing what I want them to do. It's not my problem. I don't think I did what my parents want. I don't think I did what my parents wanted me to do either. I'm sure they didn't like me running around playing in a rock band for years and all that stuff, and getting kicked out of college, et cetera, et cetera. So all of your disappointments in your life are based on your expectations of others. You can't control others, right? But you can control your expectations. The only one you can hold accountable for expectations is yourself. So if you give yourself an expectation and you're not getting there, that, again, it's based on disappointment, right? But you can control that one. You can actually fix that if you want to. A lot of people choose not to. There's a great book called Good to Great by Jim Collins. If you haven't read that, you should. And one of the things he says something is good is the evil of great. And I love that line because good is basically mediocre. People are pretty happy getting to mediocre, but they don't want to do the extra mile to get to great. And I don't really grasp that concept because my dad taught me as a kid, I don't care what you do, just be the best at it. Am I the best realtor in the world production-wise? No, but I don't sell a lot of homes on purpose anymore. But when I was selling 80 homes a year, I was pretty darn good at it. So lose your expectation, lose your disappointment, and it'll freak you out on how much it changes your life. I literally don't have any type of disappointment that much anymore. I mean, we always have some, of course, but I don't really have much anymore. And I will tell you another way just to apply it to your real estate business. One of the things I'm really, really strict on is how I set expectations for my customers. What I do with that is, so I had an inspection this week. I told my guys, they were buying the house, I said, look, this thing is going to have somewhere between 30 and 40 issues on this house. And I say that with every single house, no matter how nice it looks. And I say it to the seller too. So they all have their expectations right. So look, this is going to have 30 or 40 things wrong with the house. So I just want you to expect that. When it comes back with only 15 or 20 things wrong, the house is perfect. Right? It's a great house, got very little things. Of course, if there's major issues, that's something we deal with. But when you're saying it's going to have 30 or 40 and it only comes back with 15 or 20, it changes the whole dynamic of the transaction. Same thing with the seller. When you're telling them that it's going to have 30 or 40 things wrong, even new homes have 20, 30 things wrong, and it only comes back with 15 or 20, they're really more likely to fix a few things. So it really has changed the dynamic of a transaction when you know how to set the expectations for that. Okay, so expectations, awesome stuff. Again, one of my favorite things. My final one I'm going to talk to you here about is mindset. This is a little bit of a story, but and I have lots of stories. If you hung out with me for more than 15 minutes, that's all I do. Tell stories. But so 1978, 7:45 p.m., August 22nd. It's a moment in my life that definitely changed the course of action in everything I've done in my life. And it continues today to do that. I just didn't realize till later on how it affected my life as much as it did. So pulled into a gas station. I had on one of those very sexy nylon fishnet shirts on that we wore in the 70s. And the gas station attendant was busy. We didn't have self-serve back then. And those little things you see on the pumps now, little plastic things that stop the gas from pumping back on you. They didn't have that. So I got about, maybe a 4-inch round circle of gas on my shirt. I go in the car, and my buddy Rick asked me for a light. And I clicked the lighter, and I blew up. I went on fire. Nylon melts into you instead of falling off of you. Like cotton will fall off of you, but nylon melts. So my buddy Rick pulls me out of the car, and if you remember that drop and roll thing from, I think it was Dick Van Dyke did it or somebody back in the 70s. Well, he remembered that. He pulled me out of the car. My other friends that were in the car, there were 5 of us total, we were all just freaked out. Seeing one of your best friends on fire is not a pleasant sight, I'm sure. And they got me on the ground. They rolled me one way, and I saw the gas tanks to the car. And they rolled me the other way, and I saw the gas pumps. And I'm sitting there in my brain saying, these guys are going to leave. This place is going to blow up. And very quickly, I realized I was going to die. There wasn't any question in my mind I was going to die. outwardly, I was told I was screaming and yelling, and you can't see these things. So these are, I'm trying to show you. These are down to the bone, this hand. I got my arms, my chest, and my stomach. I had third-degree burns on 20% of my body. But during that moment, I actually became very peaceful. It wasn't horrible. I guess, again, outwardly, my friend said I was screaming, but inwardly, I was thinking about my mom, and especially my dad, because he had heart issues, and I didn't know what to do to him. And, it was a really weird thing, and I just resigned the fact I was going to die. And then all of a sudden, I was out. My buddy Rick got me out, put me out, and I was on fire for probably, the whole thing was probably 10 or 15 seconds. I don't really know exactly, but that's my guess. Ambulance gets there 5 minutes later. They pour 12 gallons of ice water on my body to cool me down. Got to the hotel, the hospital, and they pile me in ice. They got to take all the skin off. And by the way, this is a really fun one to do when I'm doing this for a lunch meeting. And literally the skin hanging everywhere. It's disgusting. My father shows up, and my buddy Rick saves his life. He just saved my life. Now he saves his life. He saw my dad going down, so obviously they have a heart condition happen. And they took him in the other room next to me, and they were working on him. He was fine. But obviously seeing your son all charred up there must have been really difficult. And the doctors, while I'm there, I'm listening and I'm aware. They pump me full of tons of morphine to stop the pain. But I couldn't breathe because when you're burnt on your stomach, it affects your breathing. But they're talking to my parents about this is going to be at least a 4 to 6 month ordeal with multiple skin grafts, blah, 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 blah. Get me to intensive care about 6 hours later. After they stabilized me, I was there for a couple of days. And then, I don't know if it's the third day, because I was on a lot of morphine, but every day they would take you down to this hot tub and take all your skin off, because you have to get all your dead skin off for all the new skin to come on. And the doctors are telling me it's going to be 4 to 6 months. Well, I said, I can't do that. I have a gig to play in 3 weeks, and I have to be on that gig. And the reason why that gig was so important was it was our first concert we were putting on ourselves. We promoted it. We sold it out. It was a big deal for us. Several thousand people. And on top of that, the guy that was replacing me while I was in the hospital, because we still had to play our gigs. We had gigs every Friday and Saturday forever. He was a better guitar player, and he could sing. And that was the only way that I met girls, was through my band. So I couldn't give that up. I couldn't lose that. So I was very motivated to get out of the hospital. Well, the doctor said, when you can go like this with your hands, we'll let you out. But it's going to take you months for that to happen. And skin grafts, especially on my left hand where they could, had bone, they're going to have to skin graft all that and blah, blah, blah. Okay, crazy stuff. So anyways, every night I would sit there and literally bawl my eyes out trying to move my fingers. I couldn't move my hands because the new skin was trying to grow back. When the skin was growing back, everything just got really, really tight and you couldn't move. But every night, bawl my eyes out as long as I could and do the pain and just try to move my fingers. So a week into being in the hospital, all of a sudden, and I'm 17 years old, so I don't really grasp any of this. There's doctors flying in from all over the country. I mean, literally, every day there's 4, 5, 6 doctors coming in to see me. And they're talking about something I don't really remember, a long time ago. And anyways, fast forward, 2.5 weeks later, the doctor walks in and I'm going, I'm out. And I got out of the hospital in 2.5 weeks. I played the gig. I had to put on like these little mini condoms on my fingers because I was bleeding everywhere. And by the 4th set, we were a 4-set band back then. I would have to, I had to sit down. I couldn't stand anymore. It was really, really a challenge. But life went on there. I decided from that moment on, I knew that I could have been dead. They said 10 more seconds, I would have been very, very dead. And I learned from that experience at that moment that I'm just going to live life and have a ball, because you could be dead just like that. But that wasn't where I learned my lesson. So fast forward to 50 years old, which is 2009 or 10. And real estate business was really tough back then. My education company was failing. I had 2 neck surgeries a few years before and was addicted to pain pills. It was a mess. It was probably besides losing my parents, probably one of the worst times in my life. And I was sitting there, it was on a Friday, and I was up off of US 1 in NASA Boulevard, and I just made the decision. I was getting ready to take another pain pill. I was taking 3 pain pills a day back then. And I made the decision not to do that. All day Saturday, I'm showing property. All day Sunday, I'm showing property. Saturday, I started feeling withdrawals, and I'd never been addicted to anything, so I didn't really understand what was going on. I mean, I knew it was withdrawals, but I didn't know what was going to happen. By Sunday, I showed property, wrote an offer, and got home, and I was literally curled up on my couch, and with my wife, sitting there, and she's watching me, and she felt helpless, and we both, there's nothing you can do. I was curled up in a ball, shaking and sweating, and it was horrible. I have a whole different feeling for people that go through withdrawals now and understand it a lot better. And my wife goes, "Do you want to watch a movie?" I'm like, "Really?" I said, "I don't care," and I won't say the words I used. "I don't care what you do." So she puts on the movie The Secret, and if you've never seen The Secret before, and I'm going to actually rent out the movie theater here locally, and I'm going to do an event on The Secret because it's mind-changing. It's just mind-blowing how much it changed my life. So I watched the movie The Secret. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you do. And literally within a minute of starting to watch it, I picked up a pad of paper and wrote a thing called Insanity, which was realizing that I cured myself of burns. That's the first time I realized it, that my brain cured myself of burns in 2.5 weeks when people told me I'd be in the hospital for 4 to 6 months. Think about that. How crazy is that? So I wrote this thing, Insanity. I think it's in both of my books because it's such a powerful thing that I did. And I realized that the reason why my business was bad, the reason why my education company wasn't bringing on new people at the time was because of my mindset. My agents always fed off my positivity because you guys know me, well, some of you know me. I'm just always positive. And I was not, outwardly I thought I was being positive, but obviously I was I was giving off a negative vibe, a negative energy by being addicted to pills, business being bad, all this stuff. And again, it was probably one of my first negative moments in my life that I can remember besides my parents dying, as I said. So I decided to take the next 30 days and work very, very little. I kind of took some time off. It took me about a week to get over the withdrawals. I played golf a lot that next couple of weeks. Played my guitar a lot every day, which I still do today. And really changed my mindset to realize if I can fix myself of burns, right? That's that. If I can fix myself of burns, I can certainly fix my businesses, right? I can certainly fix everything in my life. And that was the first realization, 40 years later, almost 43 years later, that I realized, 33 years later, that you completely control your destiny. You completely control everything going on in your life, but you have to control it in a positive manner. So one of my favorite lines is by Henry Ford. It's whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. So if you don't think you can do something, you're not going to do it. It's like I talk to agents, we do our yearly thing with all my agents at the end of the year, my yearly business planning for those that want to do it. And we sit down and we go over how many transactions they want to do and how they're going to get there, what steps they're going to take to do this. Same way I do when they join my company, I do my private coaching. So I have so many agents that tell me they're going to do something, but I know they don't believe it. I mean, nobody tells me, yeah, I'm going to have a terrible year this year. I'm going to sell 6 homes. Nobody says that. I'm going to sell 30 homes. I'm going to sell 40 homes. And I say, well, what's going to change between last year when you did 6 and this year when you did 30 or 40? And they don't have an answer for me. And so when you don't have an answer for that, I know that they're not going to accomplish those goals because they didn't say, I changed my mindset. And so if you get anything out of this today, pay attention to opportunities that come by your desk because you never know when they're going to be there and they could change your life. Get rid of all your expectations because all your disappointments in life are based on your expectations of others. And change your mindset. Always be positive. And if you're not positive, you've got to find a way to get out of that mode, whether it's volunteering or doing something to help other people. I do these type of things because, honestly, I love helping people. And I'm a karma guy, so I know that if I help enough people that my life will be great. And I do help a lot of people, and I have an awesome life. And I just want to share those experiences with people. Any questions about anything before I let you guys go? There never is in my first group. Everybody's sleeping still, right? Anyways, thanks so much for coming on today. And I think next week I am here. And I'll see you then. Have a great day.